Hey guys, Ben here from Session Media and welcome back to another episode of SaaS Crunch. Today we're going to be looking at a software company called Supermetrics and how they use search engine marketing and also some paid social in general to amplify their offering. Now, I've actually been a customer of Supermetrics for a few years, but there's a few things that I've noticed that they do really well when it comes to amplifying their content through search marketing and really staying on top of trends. So I want to touch on that today and also dive into a few bits where I think there's good opportunity for them to look into. So without further ado, let's dive into it. Okay, so one of the things I want to look into first is their search strategy. Now, in short, Supermetrics are a platform, a data connector platform, which allows you to connect your website data through various platforms into things like Google Data Studio or Excel or different places. So Excel and Data Studio are primarily where I use. So I come across them a lot when I'm typing things into Google like Data Studio. Reports. And one of the things that I think is really cool about Supermetrics is, let's type in Google Data Studio reports, is that most companies, given the opportunity when it comes to actually getting a Google ad in front of someone, they're going to pay for it, especially if it's going to be quite high CPC, for example, is they'll go straight to a product page. They say, we're paying for the cost per click. We're going to go straight for the product page because we need to squeeze that person through the buyer journey. Now, they do that in isolation of actually looking at what the intent could be. And one of the things I really like about Supermetrics is they see search for what it is and what it's becoming, and it's a way of amplifying your content, not a way of trying to shoehorn every single person into a purchasing behavior. So what they've got here, and I won't click on it because I can see the blog here in the bottom left-hand corner, is they don't amplify to go to a blog. So, for example, these guys go through to a homepage. Actually, I don't really want to start clicking on these because it's a bit harsh to start clicking on stuff with no intent of Google Ads. So what we see typically is people go through to product pages, whereas these guys are putting people through to a blog. So Google Data Studio reports is something that people frequently search in order to start setting out their reports internally and going through that education phase. Now, even though it's not necessarily someone looking for a solution, they're using a problem-focused approach to search to get in front of their target audience. And if we go across their page, rather than going to something which is highly sort of funneled, as it were, to here's the get pricing or sign up above the fold form here, whatever it is, it's got a little one in the top right-hand corner. But ultimately, it's just a breakdown of information that people need to inform the report they're looking to make next. And it's just really nice, good examples, really thoughtful, laid out, different templates people can use, and whether you're looking for LinkedIn ads or Google ads, or whatever it may be, they've kind of got those bases covered. So it really hits a wide range of target audience market just in this one post and a query that could mean a whole lot of things. So rather than going straight for the sell, they're going for the value. People can actually see what the end product is. It's kind of a content product-led approach to what people can expect when signing up. So it's really nice. And I imagine they've had quite a lot of success with it because when you actually go back into the search, we can see here that they are below Google Data. Obviously, Data Studio ranks number one for this. But we've got Supermetrics here. Again, this blog post is obviously what's ranking well in the SERP. So a lot of the time, people ignore what organically is ranking well and then try and shoehorn a solutions page into a Google ad. If the majority of what we call like middle funnel or high intent keywords actually in Google aren't product pages, then probably what Google's found is people need a bit more information and other pages are performing better with regard to meeting the requirements of the user's intent. So always check the organic listings before going and looking at promoting your ads and seeing the best approach you can go with. And again, they're monopolizing the SERPs for this just below Google Data Studio. So great credibility for them around these queries. Now, if we quickly go over into their organic search, they obviously put a lot of time into this. And I'm not going to go, it's just loading. I'm not going to go too much into what they're ranking for. But one of the things that I've picked up on that they do quite nicely, and I think some companies can be a bit slow to, is leveraging trends within search. So a new platform comes out, which someone made an integration for, a new whatever it may be, comes out in the industry, you should be creating content around it. And it hasn't just got to be top of funnel, semi-relevant content. It can be highly relevant content, which is going to get ahead of the demand curve. There's a lot of things that weren't a big thing a few years back, when now they are. And if you go into, just to illustrate what I'm talking about, we can go into new organic keywords, and let's look at some of the stuff they've got now in top 3 position. Let's look at quickly. And what we can see here is one of the things I was talking about. TikTok Ads API is a great example of something which people are now looking to report on their TikTok ads marketing. Now, TikTok ads are relatively new, but obviously jumping on this trend that people are going to be increasingly more and more searching for this to plug in to their Google Data Studio reports. Supermetrics are jumping on that, saying, we've now brought this out, we've been listening to the market, we understand the lay of the land, this is now something we're offering. And again, they sort of come in ranking position number 3 for this. Again, it says there's only 80 people searching a month for this in the US. I highly doubt that. Again, these keywords volumes are very indicative, and typically I find Ahrefs goes quite a lot under as well. Google AdWords spend monitoring, again, great stuff they're looking in front of. They've probably found that a lot of people are having issues with tracking, having issues with ad spend, and monitoring that, and they've got a great solution for it. So it's quite a niche thing that if you're not in the industry, you won't know that people potentially have an issue with tracking ad spend, and that being quite a big deal for them to stay on top of. Whereas if you're in the industry and you can stay in front of that curve of creating content, if I've got an issue with tracking ad spend, Supermetrics are now offering a content-led approach to me plugging that gap in an issue that I currently have. Again, I haven't gone through all of these, but yeah, just for example, the TikToks, the ad spend monitoring just shows that they're really in the industry, as well as staying in front of the curve when it comes to new offerings, new solutions, and therefore new content, which is getting in front of that user who's looking for it. And as they grow and TikTok becomes more and more popular as an ad platform, which it will, they're going to be the ones leading that charge and acquiring new customers who previously may not have come across Supermetrics, or even current ones who they can look to upsell to new ad platforms because they're getting in front of them. Let's have a little look at the LinkedIn strategy. Actually, before I go on that, I kind of want to talk about influencer marketing. And in B2B, people talk about influencer marketing in different ways. And I think there's lots of ways you can leverage it. But one of the things that would work with these guys, which I was thinking of this morning, would be there's a lot of big companies out there that use Supermetrics to run their Google Data Studio reports. There's a lot of big agencies, well-respected agencies. And what would be quite cool for them as a link building approach to gain more links, as well as to amplify and create good content, would be these big agencies that have specialist reports can submit them to Supermetrics to say, these are our branded reports. You give us a link because we've supplied you with this content, which is going to be good value because Supermetrics has got high DR. You give us the links back to our site, and you can use this template, and people can come in and say, these big agencies using these templates for TikTok ads. We can nick their base level template because it's going to help us further ourselves and also position Supermetrics and the agency as sort of thought leaders in that space. And what they can do is really take that route then and amplify it through the likes of paid search and say, look at all these big agencies and big companies and successful brands which are using these reports to report on their metrics, KPIs, targets, overviews. This is what matters to them. You can use our platform to replicate exactly what these best brands in the world are doing. So it's a really nice way to create content which is not only going to build links, it's going to be good for content amplification onto paid social as well. But I'm kind of just spitballing here, so let's get back on track. If we go over to LinkedIn, we can see that, let's have a look at their post actually, I haven't gone too much into this. And I'm not going to touch too much on it because I was kind of mainly going to touch really upon their search metrics and how they sort of approach that. But one of the things I think they could do, especially with these, let's scroll down a little bit, they've got some carousels here. Again, this goes through to another blog, which is great amplification of content, which we've spoken about before, versus amplification of just buy now. But I think a lot of companies, especially one with, there we go, TikTok ads reporting made easy. This is, again, something that they're going to be taken through to a optimized TikTok ads, on the blog post, I imagine, with some templates and stuff as well. So what I like about them is they're really forward thinking. They have their hands in the industry, and the fact that they know what's going on, what the customers want, and it probably helps that their marketing department uses it for themselves so they can kind of fulfill their own need, as it were. One of the things we find quite a lot working with SaaS companies and tech brands in the B2B space in general is they can be quite confusing for people who are just getting into the market. So doing things like platform run-throughs, like long-form video content around how someone would set up the dashboard, how someone would use it to set up a LinkedIn ad campaign, someone would set it up in this industry to, report on certain elements that they're going after, and actually just going through and showing some of the product loops of how people would use it day to day, and ultimately how much time they can save, and all the other elements that will go into actually selling the product for them. I think that would be really quite nice for these guys. Again, here's really great for content amplification, but natively getting some content, and again, even tie it in with agencies. People who run agencies like us come in and say, this isn't me selling anything, by the way, but this is like saying, this is how we use it for our clients. This is what we found the reports work really well. We found this to be useful. We found these issues. We found this is a good workaround for tracking, keyword positions using SE ranking API, for example. And there's lots of content you can do which really goes into the nuances, which you can target both at in-house companies and agencies as sort of like a channel for them. So that's a very top line metric of my thoughts on what Supermetrics do well. Again, tune in next week for another SaaS company, which I'll find. What I plan on doing next week is going and looking at companies who are under 10 people, who have just got started with either seed funding or are privately funded, just to look at a company who could potentially create a plan moving forward versus looking in hindsight at what companies have been doing well, which I think would be quite cool. So subscribe to the channel and hopefully see you guys back here next week.